Hi, Lecky Harrison here from Raise Your Resilience. So, how do you know you're getting better? Well, and even though this is going live right now, I'm also going to schedule this for release on Wednesday. But how do you know you're getting better? Measuring improvements. And I'm going to use something I read in BJ Fogg's book, um, Tiny Steps, I believe is the name of it. It was about developing habits and an experience that I have with clients. Anyway, excuse me. Um, so, how do you know you're getting better, especially in terms of emotional improvement, emotional literacy, handling your emotions? Some would like to say controlling your emotions, but that's hard to do. And it's hard to do without suppressing your emotions. And we don't want to do that. Anyway, another example I'll use or an analogy is meditation, sitting meditation. Because a lot with sitting meditation, we have this idea that we're supposed to not think. Okay, well, my meditation teacher would not say that, and he's from Tibet. Because what is this thing? What's this thing for? This brain in our head is exactly for thinking. So we think. That's okay. Now, when you're sitting in meditation, you're supposed to be here now. All right, so we're sitting there all nice and cozy with a cushion under our butt and our hands on our lap, our back nice and straight. Or sometimes we're not even doing that, which can lead some people to doze off. Anyway, but here's what happens. I think happened a lot to me. Be sitting there just following what's going on in your body, feeling the temperature of the room, thinking, I need to, or, oh, God, that's all these little aches and pains, which is part of the experience. It's okay to have those. And so you're sitting there and all of a sudden, here's this thought. And it goes by like an American train. So really, really kind of slow. And we jump on board and we're miles down the track before we say, oh, I got to get off and I got to run back of my body. Now I'm on the cushion. And you go, all right. Okay, well, and then here comes the next train. Same thing. Train that goes that way. See what happens here? When we get emotionally, as we learn, as we're emerging from trauma and the signs of life are beginning to grow, we emerge from this state of trauma and we start working on our emotions. All right. I'm looking now at this is the book I've been reading and the different theories of emotion that he talks about. There's the attitude theory by Nina Bull. There's the James Lang theory. Skinner's got a theory. There's several more I need to go through that all have interesting characteristics about their theory. But either way, if we're experiencing these emotions and as we start to just get literate with what they are, and I use the mixed emotions cards, I don't think they come in this cute little bag anymore. But the mixed emotions cards are the tool I use to learn what the emotions are. They all have good little graphics, relieved, and then can you see the three at the bottom there? Reassured, soothed, at ease. Okay, so there's a variation on a theme there, which are helpful, and then some blank ones in case you want to make up some of your own. But there's quite a few of them there when you add them all, the shades thereof, and it's not unlike Plutchik's wheel, which I've talked about before. Anyway, you get jazzballed emotionally. That's the word I use. And basically, imagine a ball of yarn that's all knotted up. How do you make heads or tails of that and begin to straighten that out so that it's a functional ball of yarn? It's a challenge, isn't it? It's time consuming. And sometimes we need the response in the moment. But anyway, so the analogy would be something happens that gets us jazzballed, and we finally either separate ourselves or we shut down. And so then we go about life and we go, could have handled that better. You're driving home and you're, man, I wish I would have done that better, so forth and so on. So that's 25 minutes, 30 minutes down the road. If we suppress it, it could be considerably later. Now, one of the things that we want to consider then is, okay, so the next time might be the same number of minutes, might be a little bit shorter, might be a little longer. Okay. But you know what we're aware of? We're aware that it's happening. Whereas before, we were not. And that's what's important. Because what will eventually happen is, you have that moment. I wish I could have done this, this, and this, or done this, this, or this differently. Cool. See what's happening? You're putting together a response plan. There's nothing wrong with that, because eventually the 25 minutes becomes 20 minutes, becomes 15 minutes, and the whole point here is that it becomes shorter. And it's the same way in sitting meditation. Eventually we see the train go by. Oh, that one got tagged. And that's all. Because we don't get taken down the track with that train's story, which is oftentimes it's running through our heads as we're meditating. Well, in being emotionally jazzballed, we get that way. And sometimes at first we might come home. This is what I did. This was how I had learned how to, I'd sit down with the cards and I'd say, okay, what did I just feel? And I'd go through the cards. Okay. And those cards, then I could either just set them aside or write them down. But either way, I had a sense of what it was I felt. Maybe not everything, and that's okay, because this is, you don't jump in a sailboat and learn how to go out and navigate rough waters all at once. Same thing here. We get in the sailboat and we putz around the harbor. We get used to steering. We get used to tacking, because if the wind shifts, now we need to go this way, and then we're going to go back that way, and then we're going to go this way. That's the way sailboats work. So anyway, one of the issues then is, as we're jazzballed, we start using the cards. We try to identify what we just went through emotionally. And then, okay, cool. If we need to take some action, maybe that time later is not a bad time to take that action. We have to weigh that. But what ends up happening then is, okay, something else happens that jazzballs you, and you might catch the emotion earlier, but you still were weird about it. And later you went, well, now things have improved. A, I know a little bit about what I felt, and B, that means that I can, whatever. I can now eventually shorten that time period up. And it's the same way with meditation. This, I think, happens a little faster because there's an underlying foundation to emotional resilience. And that underlying foundation is your own body. Now, in our program, our healing program, that's what I teach people. That's where we start, is with the body. We come into the emotions in module 2. And what ends up happening then is the body begins to develop the neurological and physical capacity and resilience to be able to take on emotions. And then as we get better with navigating these emotions and identifying them, stuff like that, that means that my ability in the moment to navigate, I can hear the emotions, I can tell what they're saying, and I can work with them and respond accordingly. Oh, well, that makes me angry. Do I need to say something now or not? And I'm not talking, I can be, all this can be going on while I'm just sitting there nodding my head, listening. And oh, okay. They're confused. Hmm. Okay. I show that I'm engaged. I'm there. I'm listening, tracking my emotions, what they're going to say about that. Then I might say, okay, well, you know what? This emotion was the strongest. So that's the one I'm going to respond with. Either way, what ended up happening is that I went from being jazzballed to being able to be present in the moment. And that noticing that time, just noticing the fact you got jazzballed, you could have done better is improvement number one. Improvement number two is, wow, that only took me 20 minutes to come to that realization because those are stormy feeling, aren't they? Those emotions get up, and man, that's like being in a Category 5 tornado out in the Great Plains, or big ones in Minnesota where we were. We had some some tornadoes, baby. Okay, and that's we survive it, but they feel that way. They feel completely overwhelming, and for a while they will be because we have to have that physical capacity and resilience. So, what ends up happening here, and this is when with the physical side, sometimes it's the provider you're working with. And that's why I don't advocate that this work, I mean, it's do it yourself because you got to do all the work. I'm just giving you homework and I'm guiding you along the way. I get to watch you. That's like going camping with a guide. And at first, he shows you what to do. And after a while, he says, okay, here we are at campsite. He helps you get the gear out and says, set it all up. That means you have to set up the tent, get it ready for sleeping in. That means that you have to set up the fireplace. That means you have to collect the wood for the fire because that's what you're going to cook your meals on and your coffee. All of that's on you. And he's going to sit there and watch. And he's going to say, that was brilliant. That was well done. And, after so many days and weeks of doing that, guess what? You might even say, whoa, 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 that looks like a really good campsite. Let's check this one out. And turns out you were right. Great campsite. And by now, you're not even waiting for him to say anything. You're just getting the gear out and doing it yourself. That's at the point when you start to be able to do it yourself in your own trauma healing. But you want that foundation with a guide first. Because in the physical, and this works with my clients, I will notice a change in their body that even they don't notice because their nervous system changed. And the thing about change in trauma healing is, like in a lot of areas, we don't catch the small changes that accumulate. It's almost like we have to be 4 or 5 months down the road and whoa, man, you're in a situation, you go, oh my goodness, I would have normally not responded that way. But the person who's been helping you has been watching this happen all along. And that is one of the things that's critical in a therapeutic relationship. And that is that the person who's your provider, who's your guide, they get to say, awesome, that was great. You know how fast you got all that set up? Or they get up tomorrow morning and they say, oh, God, I haven't slept that good on a rock in years because you picked the right campsite. It's a matter of first gaining that timing of noticing that you're jazzballed, and then it'll come down to, in the moment. Okay, we've talked about deep breathing how many times in the program? Okay, you take a deep breath. You might still be angry. You might still be frustrated. You might still be any number of things. And okay, but you're there. You didn't used to be there. You used to be on the way home. And now I get to respond in the moment more appropriately. So that's how you learn to measure. At first, it's going to take somebody pointing something out to you. But here's, trauma healing is, I don't want to say it's arduous work. I don't ever in my program take anybody into their trauma. I don't need them to talk about it. I don't need them to remember it. I don't even need a diagnosis. You don't have to have any of that to heal. And so the focus is on first your body, okay, and things that are going on in your body. Don't need to talk about your past. And then on the second, we start talking about emotions. Now, maybe you never felt empowered in any traumatic event. Good possibility that is not happening to anybody. But as we focus on emotions, what ends up, and these are just what happen in our everyday life, not because of memories. We don't typically have to go there. But when we're working with these, we're focusing on our everyday ability to be emotionally response-able. That's what it's all about. That's pretty simple. And that's just module 2. But that lays an important foundation for module 4, which is about relationships. We all have them, and we might already be in them while we're healing, but that's the measurement. Now, the book that TJ Fogg had and wrote, I do believe is called Tiny Habits. You can look that up. Small book. But I think I either saw him talk about this in a video or he talked about this in his book. He had a client, and best of my memory, the woman, I think, wanted to start running, but wanted to be more active. So rather than, okay, well, go outside and run 5 miles or go run a mile, which is, if you haven't done that in a while, that might be a great way to hurt yourself. Your bones might not be ready for that, and your muscles might not be ready for that, and your connecting ligaments and connecting tissues may not be ready for that. And tomorrow, the next day, and the next day, and the next day, you might regret that decision. Okay, so to create a tiny habit of doing that, and we'll just say walking, around the neighborhood, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, 4 blocks, whatever. Okay, he said, take your shoes out of your closet and put them by your front door every day. And then after X number of minutes, a half an hour, you get up, you take your shoes, put them back in the closet. That's all. Your only goal for the week is to do that every day. And so while she's watching TV, and so finally then, since you got the shoes out, put them on. All right. Goal number 2. That was it. Goal number 3. Instead of, while you're watching TV, instead of sitting, I want you to just stand there and kind of walk, march, feet up and down, not moving. You're still looking at the TV. You're not going outside. Well, the woman finally realized, well, this is ridiculous. If I'm going to put my shoes on, I'm just going to go outside. And so what happened is she began to cut time off of her ability to create this new habit, because habits don't start in 21 days. That was if you've ever seen me post a bell curve here, that's what they based this on. The left-hand side of the bell curve was the 21-day mark, which means that there were some exceptional people who did it in 21 days. The vast majority of the people who were involved in that study were at the middle of the bell curve, and that was 66 days. So when you're talking about developing a habit, part of what ends up happening is we realize we can be doing more than we are currently doing. For most people, that's true, because there was the other end of the bell curve, which was over 100 days. But 66 was about the medium, 68, 60, somewhere in that neighborhood. So as you're establishing these daily habits, and so it's partly just being aware of it, then there's the daily habit of, okay, what did I feel? You might just come home and go through the cards and say, I felt this, and all these different situations throughout the day. Cool, there's your habit. Just get used to doing that. And then as you begin this process, it begins to, it's kind of like the idea of something rolling down a hill. If I need my car to get down the hill, there's two ways of doing that. One is if I'm pushing it, I can just let it go. It will get down the hill in a hurry if it's in neutral. If it's in park, well, we know that. So the snowball, in a sense, will get rolling. And an avalanche is kind of a good illustration of that. But we want to have a little bit of control over that. And that's what that woman did. She said, this could be going just a little bit. Oh, come on. She decided skip the TV thing. And instead of walking all 16 blocks, she just walked around the block, or maybe she walked to the end of the street and back. That's how that works. So as we move along and start gaining momentum, a body in motion will stay in motion unless something greater works against it. Sometimes that's us, but you will stay in motion, and you can increase that motion if you would like to. Your emotion. No pun intended, but boy, there she came, huh? So anyway, I want you to be able to understand that sometimes working with emotions, it's easy to get jazzballed, right? And it takes time to undo some of that, to undo that jazzball, and to the place where our nervous system and our I like to use the term neurophysiology because it does involve how your physiology is. So much to this point that some of these, James Lang is an early theory of emotion from 1884. Let me just read this to you because this doesn't change until later down the pike. Bodily changes follow directly the perception of the exciting fact. Okay. Your boss says, we need to talk. That's the exciting fact. Now, exciting might be a weird word, but oftentimes when it comes to our nervous systems, we use the term arousal. Is that any better? Anyway, bodily changes follow directly a perception of an exciting fact. We have a perception, bosses. Got to talk. Perception says, I'm going to get fired. I did something wrong. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? All right. So your body is changing relative to that. All right. And our feelings of those same changes, the bodily changes, as they occur, is the emotion. Did you get in the office and you say yes? What seems to be the issue? And really what he wants to talk about is something that's on his plate that he wants help for. And you go, you're doing that inside. You may not do that to his face, to her face, but you're going, oh my God, I thought it was, because if you've been traumatized and spent years and years and years in job situations where you felt like you were going to get fired, or you were not quite up to the job and you were making mistakes, that is how that feels. But as you heal, you become a better employee. So ROI on this particular experience, becoming emotionally literate makes you a better employee. It makes you better on problems. It makes you better with employee relationships, and employees who are better get raises, plain and simple. Or they can go find themselves a better situation of employment where their betterness will get them a higher wage. I've had this experience in my own life since, well, let's see, I'm going to say since 2013. I could say that it's gone up hundreds of percent since 2011. That's when I was not working at all. And that would be true. But I'm going to say, just in the shortest amount of time span that I worked at one job, 30% in a 2-year time period. 30%. That is not bad. That is not bad. Because I was looking and I know who I am and I know what I'm capable of. And one of those things is my emotional resilience. I don't get jazzballed by problems if it's not my problem. If they're having a problem in the deli department, guess what? Bummer. Can I help? If not, I'll go back to my job because not my emergency. And if my being there gets me in the way, then I'm getting in the way. But it takes emotional capability to understand that and extricate yourself before somebody says, get out of here. We've got this covered. We don't need this. Because now you're perceived as in the way. Okay, their perception, their body. You get to learn at some point in time how to read their body in this situation. It's a beautiful thing. And that's what makes for relationships of quality. All right. So I just wanted to share this stuff with you, that as this is how you begin to measure, because at first your provider, and if you're in my program, that would be me to begin with, will say, wow, did you notice you just such and such? And you might go, no. And you might say, oh, wow. Or you might say, yeah, I did. And you'll know why, because you'll feel it. There's going to be a change in your neurophysiological state, which is why we kind of start there. So once that it starts in your neurophysiological state, and then it starts to come out in I need to have the words to be able to express what this change is. This is emotion. And there's other theories, but the bodies are involved. You have neurochemicals going on, so forth and so on. So this is where this goes. This is how you can measure some of the things that are going on, just like sitting meditation. You just realized, you jumped on that train, but you might have just jumped on that train and realized, man, gotta quit jumping on the trains, and you jumped off. That's a lot better than being 25 miles down the track and going, I jumped on a train and now I'm 25 miles away. I have to walk home. Oops. That makes sense? Anyway, thoughts, questions, just leave them here and we can talk about those. If you need any more information, or you want to, if you want to work with me to heal your trauma, that's Lecky@raiseyourresilience.com. You can always visit my website, www.raiseyourresilience.com. And there you can just walk through the process. It's on the pages. Just follow the buttons. It'll take you through the whole process. If you want to learn more, Lecky@raiseyourresilience.com. And we can schedule a consult, which is also on the website. Cool. Let's talk about it. Just leave your thoughts about how do you do these things? Did this resonate with you? Did this help you? Or how do you do this kind of thing? All right. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you later. Bye.